Hi everybody, Steve here at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in the Hollywood Hills, and I'm here this morning to visit the gravesite, to visit the final resting place of one of the victims of PSA Flight 182. I was recently watching a really good episode of the YouTube channel History Hunters, and Jeff did an excellent job of telling the story of the crash of PSA Flight 182 in San Diego back in 1978. Flight 182 collided mid-air with another smaller jet, a Cessna 172 that was practicing landings at Lindbergh Field, and this was back in the day before they had a lot of the safety features that they now have to prevent crashes like this happening. And apparently back then, smaller jet planes could fly in the same airspace as larger jet planes, and the jet airliners, I don't believe they had warning devices like they do today, letting them know if there's another plane nearby. They just had to rely on visuals, and the smaller plane apparently was below the larger plane that was above, and neither of them saw each other until they collided. Both planes plummeted to the ground over the North Park neighborhood in San Diego, killing 144 people. 35 passengers were aboard Flight 182, 2 pilots were on board the smaller Cessna, and 7 people on the ground were killed. I lived in San Diego just a few years before the plane crash. I moved away in 1974, and I lived not too far away from the neighborhood where this crash took place. After watching Jeff's episode about this tragic disaster, I started wondering where the victims were buried. It's something I hadn't thought about before. So I did a search on Find a Grave and discovered that they're buried in cemeteries all over Southern California and in other states and other places. But one of the victims was laid to rest right here at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in the Hollywood Hills. And since I was coming here today to visit another gravesite, I thought I would see if I could find the gravesite of this young man who died that day in that terrible and historic plane crash. His name was Azmi Taha, and he's laid to rest here in the gentleness section. And I've actually visited this section before. I've visited a couple of grave sites in this section before, not knowing that he was laid to rest here. There was no GPS, but there seemed to be pretty clear directions, and there was a grave photo, so I thought I would just walk around and see if I could find his gravesite. I did manage to find it, and I added a GPS to his Find a Grave Memorial page. I also took a new photo to upload that's much clearer and much nicer than the one that was taken some time ago. I don't know if his gravesite's been replaced or if just maybe the lighting was better. So I took another photo to share as well on his Find a Grave Memorial page. Even though this was such a sad visit today, I wanted to come because so often news events like this are widely covered when the incident occurs, but years later, many of the victims are just forgotten. And as you know, I like to remember the victims of crimes and disasters and accidents and just so many of the sad final endings that befall so many people. So even though it is sad to visit the gravesite of a 16-year-old boy who was cut down before he had a chance to live his life, at least through videos like this, he can be remembered. Now, I wasn't able to find any information about him online, so if any of you watching happen to know anything about him, about his life, please share with us in the comments section down below. I'm sure all of the viewers of this video would like to know a little bit more about Azmi Taha. Why was he on that plane that day? Where was he headed? Where did he live? His Find a Grave Memorial page says that he was born August 26, 1962, and that he died that September 25th, 1978, and that he was 16 years old, but that's about it. That's about all the information that's shared on his Find a Grave Memorial page. I know it's been a long time, but hopefully some of you watching will be able to share a little bit more information about him. He was just one of the victims, and I'm sure over time I'll visit some of the other victims, but I wanted to start here today with his gravesite. And if any of you happen to know the life stories of any of the other victims who were on either plane or on the ground that day, please share those as well, and if I'm able to, I'll visit their gravesites in the future. This week I want to thank my newest Patreon supporters, Carl Rhodes and George Sawtooth. Thank you so much, Carl and George, for your extra generous donations to this channel. They're very appreciated and definitely help make future trips like this possible. So until next time, thanks for sharing the memories, everybody.